Welcome back to Neutral, the podcast. This is episode 10, and this episode is about a book I read a while back called Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. Um, just a super interesting, enlightening, and important book to read, period. This is a book. I probably should have wrote down just some of the main points, but I didn't. But the whole gist of the entire book, he has a bunch of meditations throughout the book that kind of guide you through the process of um, either aligning your chakras or getting into like brain heart coherence. Um, when you're in brain heart coherence, um, you're basically brain heart coherence is basically you are connected to yourself, and your brain works with your heart. Um, uh, Basically, like when you're experiencing positive, the whole book is about experiencing. If you want anything in life, and you can't just meditate on something and say you want this or you want to be a certain way or you want something in life. The whole thing was about experiencing positive emotions and like gratitude, love, and appreciation. And you can't actually live a life that you love and that you want until you actually feel the what it's like. Basically, trying to train your brain to feel good before you actually feel good. Like he's trying to say that your brain. The guy's name's Joe Dispenza. I don't know if I already mentioned that. Um, he's trying to say that the brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality, and you can tell it how to feel. And a great way to do that is to get into brain heart coherence, which is again, you're feeling elevated emotions and feelings as opposed to other feelings. You always want to move towards elevated feelings. That was what my last episode was about. Was just the whole key to the universe is experiencing enjoyment and switching the perspective to enjoyment when you're not feeling good. But the whole book is about being in brain heart coherence and feeling. When you're in meditations, you want to feel gratitude, you want to feel good, you want to put yourself in the life that you want before you actually are there, so you experience it in the imagination, right, in the imaginative brain. And it can help promote overall well-being, cognitive function, reduce your stress. It can help you feel better physically, just literally choosing to be in your heart. Because a lot of the times, the world tries to get you out of your heart. And it's finding your way back to the heart that actually will bring you great peace and liberation. Um, it's probably the best book I've ever read, honestly. And I feel like a lot of the books I've read sort of connect in a lot of ways. But um, super cool. I can't say enough about it. I sometimes I almost want to read it again because it's so. I wrote down like so many things just resonated with me, and I just liked that you can imagine things. You need to move back into your heart in order to actually feel good because the world is painful, and in order to move out of pain, you need to go into your heart. Everything's a shift from pain um, to love, and that's what you have to do, and that's the only way to like combat. Like people have to make decisions to take in pain and decide to just try their hardest to make it about feeling good, make it about love, and that's the only way to actually, um, like, 'cause you can't expect. You have to be that one person that's going to take some shitty thing to happen to you or someone said and choose to be loving to yourself and kind. And basically, your energy is powerful. The power of one energetic being has the ability to change things. He talks about like peace when people gathered all over the world and throughout the world to come together and um, like when there was wars going on, I guess there was like certain events where people were like established and they came together in like these peace things. I guess they call them. I can't remember exactly, but like apparently like they came together and like tried to like bring peace to the world in masses, mass groups or whatever, and it actually impacted the world in positive ways. I wish I had the book on me, but there's actual like um, some instances, specific examples that he listed, and I thought it was super super cool. So um, I feel like the biggest reason this is the most important thing is because this goes back to I tried to record an episode the other day about this guy that I went to a therapy. I was in a therapy session once, about over a year ago, and she was trying to tell me about this guy named Terry Real, who's an established psychologist who works with couples, people trying to redefine their help them in their relationships, obviously, and um, yeah, basically the whole brain heart coherence makes so much sense, and what he's doing is super important work because there's an old narrative that is not necessarily bad, like a patriarchal narrative that is there's the narrative just like constantly you're not in your heart. It's constantly about proving yourself, providing value in your relationship, constantly. Um, I'm not going to say there's nothing wrong with old narratives, um, but there's a different narrative that helps you achieve liberation and peace and move into when you move into your heart. Life is just better. I think it's better. Would be better for all people. I think it definitely is for me. Um, I just can't. It's hard for me to do anything. Like like when you're not in your heart or heart brain coherence, you're in this state of like um, ego, and the ego is tricky, and you can't actually achieve or feel connected to the source in the ego. Um, it's well, the ego for one causes debate and issues, and um, that's how we live in a polarized world because there's always two sides shouting different narratives, and there's different narratives going on. But when you just choose brain heart coherence, there's not always a need to like talk about your narrative and what you believe. And I think it's important to just slowly get away from trying to talk about things all the time and calling certain groups out. Like these far right narratives of like calling out like the transgender community is too far, and it's too far when we go too far left, and it's just like we need to like just sort of like go back to like respect, and just stop talking about stuff so much. And when you're in brain heart coherence, I feel like you don't need to talk about things as much, shout them as much, sort of thing. And and there's just less of a need to be in a narrative, and the narrative doesn't need to be focused on um, yeah, um, or you don't feel the need to like constantly be trying to do something that's of value to the world. You're just a person, and I don't know. I just feel like whatever it was about, like it's hard. I think for a lot of people, it's hard to do things when they're not in brain heart coherence. Like it's hard to do things when you're not actually emotionally invested in the thing. Unless you're emotionally invested in the thing that you want to do, it doesn't work. If you're just doing things out of ego or some sort of sense of like power, or you're doing it because of this narrative that you need to prove yourself and you need to be a certain way, you're not actually going to feel good. And maybe that's why the world suffers, is because we're not doing things based on our emotions, and we do things based on um, just trying to provide value, and like always trying to be seen for just the idea of being seen, but we're not actually doing things for ourselves. We're not actually doing things to enjoy ourselves. We're doing things for someone else, to gain the approval of someone, um, just for the wrong reasons, I would say. Like he's trying to say that you need to be emotionally connected and be in your body. You need to understand that it's a connected system. Energy needs to flow, and when you're in your heart, it flows easier. When you use your past, you can use the pain that's stuck in your lower chakras. He talks about this in the book too. There's so much stuck in your lower chakras, which is your fight or flight, it's your survival. And you want to drag the energy up. There's breathing exercises where you just drag the energy up from all these lower chakras. It's super cool. I was having some crazy experiences, and like wavy, I don't know, I can't. um, and you just take all the energy and all the crap that's stored in the lower chakras, and you bring it up, and you can use it in your creativity, your pineal glands in your brain. You suck it all the way up to your head, which is in your pineal gland, and then you can be in your creative. You can be in love. You can be in touch with your authentic self, and you get to be at peace, and you get to be creative, and you get to be what humans are meant to be. We're different than animals because of our creativeness and because of our emotions, more so. It's not to say animals don't have spirits, I think they do, but we have emotion, and that's what it means to be human. And we need to get out of our survival constantly and this need to prove ourselves. And when we get out of that, we're actually liberated, and we can feel good, basically. And it's so hard to do on a consistent basis because, like I tried to do in the last video, it's multi-generational. This constant need, this constant narrative of the patriarchal system, and this need to constantly prove yourself, this pressure that's constantly beaming down on you to do stuff. And it gets, when you're in that state, you can't just enjoy life. And I feel like at this, it's just so important to get back to like enjoying a moment. It's fine to like pursue things and push your narrative and go out, believe, say what you want to believe, but like I think it's important to enjoy yourself first and foremost, and you do that by getting attached to your body and understanding your heart and connecting your heart to your brain, and finding this source of like emotional connection to yourself and everything else around you. Yeah, it's just a super cool book, honestly. And I think he has a bunch of other books. The meditations are really interesting too. It's called Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. Um, yeah, it's pretty. I highly recommend it, and that's all I gotta say.